just have a quick run through some of the bolts I've got on the table to look at. There's a few varieties of ABS or plastic bolts and some aluminium bolts and such forth. This first type, ABS shaft bolts, so plastic really, but a slightly more brittle plastic than the black ABS bolts that I'm going to show you next. These have a spiky bullet tip. This next variety is the standard ABS, probably the most popular bolt, judging by how many appear to be sold. My favourite bolt, that's for sure. A slightly softer and more durable and heavier type of ABS than these, so they're about a gram heavier, but they do have a field tip, so a slightly more obtuse and less spiky angle. This variety is known as the Wasp. It's a similar variety of ABS as that kind of a durable, soft, sort of tough plastic. They have a spiky bullet tip, and they're of similar weight to those, I suppose, so they are certainly lighter than these black ones here. Going up in weight, you'd probably sort of say, I haven't actually weighed them all yet. I'll do that next, and we'll do a little weight comparison. And of course there's the aluminium or alloy bolts with a field tip and rubber flights. I wouldn't recommend these generally. They're a bit expensive, not very durable. The tips can come loose, and the flights, because they are flexible rubber, they actually wobble during flight and affect the accuracy. I find this variety of bolt to be more accurate than the alloy ones. I'll just say that again. The ABS bolts are more accurate than the aluminium ones. Right, moving on to some of the things. One of the other reasons I like the ABS bolts is you can mess around with them a little bit easier without them splitting on you. For example, you can add razor blades to them, like I've made some homemade broadheads just here. Basically what they are, it's just split, take the tip off, split it accurately with the razor blade, wedge the razor blade in and put the tip back on. They're held in really tight, and I would no doubt going to cause a absolutely horrendous injury. So there, I've got obviously a really silly sized one there. It's a bit long, but I'm certainly looking forward to testing these on a frozen supermarket chicken. Right, as you can see, I've weighed these little babies. Don't really need that anymore. However, this is the results of that weighing. We can see the Wasps there, 5.38 grams. I was quite surprised because when you feel these slightly more brittle variety of ABS bolt in your hand, you think that they're going to be slightly lighter than these, but they're not. So there you have it. So the Wasps, 5.38 grams. The bullet tip ABS variety in bright colours, 6.01 grams. The standard ABS black, my favourite bolts with the field tips, 5.74 grams, unexpectedly. And the aluminium or alloy or aluminum bolts, if you like, 7.25 grams. Right then, this brings us on to explosive bolts. Basically all that is a blank round that's gaffer taped or duct taped to the end of a bolt. Very easy to make. You can make loads of them and not worry too much about them, but they are a little bit, well, I wouldn't call that the most aerodynamic shape in the world, aren't they? So definite loss of accuracy with them slightly. However, because the end of the blank is forced up against the target on impact, it delivers the charge directly into the wound. So even though I've made some bigger bolts and more complex bolts, explosive bolts, these are actually the most effective. Nevertheless, these are my Mark 1 explosive bolts. Taking us to the Mark 2, which are these. Obviously they look much more tasty, and they've got a nice aerodynamic head. Basically these are constructed of one of these pens taken apart, and they've basically got a blank round there, some of the components of the pen, basically a nail in the end, and the bolt is held in place by the stem of the pen. You can see it's rather obvious how that goes together anyway, but stick a lick of paint on it, once it's all assembled together, and they look rather smart. But, the idea of these is that once the charge goes off, it propels the nail into the target, hopefully at supersonic speed, but we'll see. I've shot an old damaged laptop with these, and it blew a small hole in, but it wasn't as impressive as those, to be quite honest. Still, nevertheless, tasty looking explosive bolts there, the Mark II. Right, so you can see a couple of the Mark 1s there, and a couple of the Mark 2s, and there we have a Mark III in comparison. The Mark III is basically a blank round and an entire shotgun cartridge full of gunpowder, all wedged into the end, so obviously a much larger explosive than the Mark IIs or the Mark 1s. Also, it's worth mentioning that the Mark 1s and Mark 2s are using an 8mm blank round, and the Mark III, because it's a slightly wider pen that I've used, just to cram more in, I've used a 9mm blank round, so it's a bigger blank. In this case I've cut the end off the blank as well, so that the entire charge of gunpowder goes off at once, making it possibly a little bit more potent. It's quite heavy, and it's a two-piece unscrewable construction, which is rather cool, because in its present form it's a little bit dangerous. Not very dangerous, they are quite stable. You'd have to throw them on the ground accurately and very hard to set one of these off. Certainly the design, you would probably expect the forces of launching from the crossbow to set them off, but they don't, which is what I was hoping for. Only the rapid deceleration of impact actually sets these off, which is a cool thing. But I'll just unscrew the Mark III. We'll check it out. Right, now we can see the Mark III. I've unscrewed it, so it's now in its two-piece form. Just to give you an idea of what's going on there, when that's screwed together, inside that casing is, of course, the as I was mentioning, a 9mm blank, which will end up about there. So all the rest of the casing is filled completely with the gunpowder from the shotgun cartridge. So still haven't struck the prime yet. So yeah, basically it's an aluminium cased pen I've used in this case. These Mark IIs with the 8mm blank in is just a plastic pen. But hopefully using the aluminium case will delay the expansion of the gunpowder, causing a slightly more violent explosion than it would do if it was just a plastic cased pen. Same scenario, I've just got a little nail in the end so that it sticks into the target and doesn't glance off if it's an angled impact. But yeah, pretty cool. To give you an idea of the difference in size between the 9mm blank, there's a 9 and there is an 8. So you can see clear difference in size. Obviously the 9 on the left and the 8mm on the right, so it's a much bigger charge really. Right, now then, getting back to the accuracy of these bolts, I haven't fired that many of these, I'll be honest. They're not as readily available as the other two varieties, or the other three varieties I'd say, and I can't really get them for what I would consider an extremely good price. Additionally, they're probably one of the lightest of these as well, so I'll take those out of the equation for the time being. Now, the black ABS variety of bolt, I've probably shot close to 1,000 of those, and certainly more than 200 of the aluminium variety of bolt, and I've probably shot about 150 of the red Wasp variety that you see on the left. So let's get straight to the problem with the Wasps. Just inside the end of the crossbow you can see, just here there's a step basically, so the problem with these Wasps is with the 3 fins and one of them has to go in the channel at the bottom. What ends up happening is, well, you can see the bottom fin is contacting that step and it's knocking the bolt upwards. So that has affected accuracy when it comes to the Wasps. Right, now I'm going to show you some examples of the targets that I've been shooting recently. These are like controlled test targets, so I've put the dot of the crossbow bang smack on the X at varying distances, so you will see the drop accordingly. For example, the target that you see on your left is at 8 meter distance and the target on the right is a 12 meter distance, so obviously the group is slightly lower with the alloy target on the right, but that doesn't excuse the left to right spread that we've got in difference. Basically what I'm trying to show here is that the ABS arrows are more accurate than the alloy ones. What have we got here? They're both 8 meters and 12 meters, so you can see, I mean, this is spread a little bit more. This is an extremely good example of what was happening during that day. These are both at 12 meters in exactly the same conditions with exactly the same support, and I was actually using a rest at 12 meters, quite a fair distance away. So you can see the drop. It's either bang on centre, or it's dropping about 1.5 inches, maybe it's an inch below centre. That's its drop over 12 meters. The crossbow is actually 0 to about 10 meters. So targets at 10 meters, you will see that are much more accurately on centre. But as I was saying, this is an extremely good example of what was going on that day. I was getting more left to right spread. Up and down was about the same, but the windage was affected more with the alloy ones. Once again there you can see another example of grouping and spread, both at the same distance, ABS on the left, and like I'm saying, that just more left to right spread going on with the alloys. Once again, I think this picture just speaks for itself. At 12 meters, I think I've got the same one on the right in comparison to a different one of the ABS on the left. So once again, I'm just getting better groupings with the plastic or ABS arrows. This one is a corker. I'm very pleased about that. That's 9 meters, so that's pretty close to what the crossbow is zeroed on. So I've got 5 shots there, 3 almost on top of each other, and those 2 there. I think the furthest away there we've got 1.5 inches off centre. So yeah, quite pleased with that. Let's take a look at some of the Wasp targets. Like I say, a complete lack of accuracy with the Wasps, and I'm pretty sure it's due to the fact that it's that one of the fins is contacting the bottom of that rail I was just showing you there. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, I've got one there that hasn't even hit the target. Must have been up here somewhere. I've got that written on the bottom there, 1 FTMC high. That's a failure to make contact. So this was at 9 meters, standing on a rest as well, with low wind, and that was the result. It's absolutely rubbish. Here we go, another one, 9 meters on a rest with low wind, same conditions. Also, the entrance to these paper targets was elongated, leading me to believe that the dart was actually tipping as it was going through the target. And here we have the Wasps at 12 meters, a considerable drop basically. On this particular one I've got 3 FTMCs, so 3 missed low, failure to make contact. Ridiculous really, none of them even in the red. So unless you're prepared to cut the bottom flight off a little bit to try and allow it to pass that little step, it's knocking it out of alignment, I wouldn't bother getting the Wasps. There's another 9 meter Wasps. That's not bad, that one. Just got a slightly better result there. I'm not sure what the reason for that was, but the inconsistency of these is just not really acceptable. I mean, at 9 meters, that's a poor group in comparison to there's 9 meters. You know, there's 5 shots all inside 2 inches. Ridiculous with the ABS bolts. So, yep. There's your 9 meter comparison with the ABS and Wasps, and that one on the right is the best group that I achieved with the Wasps. Right, this isn't really relevant, but I'm just going to show you this because I'm rather impressed with this. This was 26 meters. We've got 8 shots fired. That's what we've got there. The wind direction was going like that, as we've got there. So the wind was going that way. I was aiming 16 to 20 inches high, as it says there in your top corner, and this one in the centre here, it's got CBS written on, because that was the first shot I fired. Cold bore shot, if you like. I can't believe I hit that at 26 metres and it was the first shot. I couldn't even see the impacts. I was simply aiming about 1.5 foot high, and just going on. If I heard an impact, then it was okay, and if I didn't, then I missed. But as it happens, I mean, after the first shot I fired, I went up and had a look, and I wrote CBS next to it. So yeah, quite impressed. But the accuracy that I was achieving here is quite good. Very impressed indeed. Like I say, 26 metres, and I measured that out with the GPS. So pretty cool. I've got one FTMC low, 2 inches, so there's 2 inches lower than the target. We've got one. Bit of a shame, but never mind. But you can see how the wind was affecting some of those shots. The wind was going this direction, and some of them have strayed off. It seems that the ones that didn't have as much momentum as the other ones perhaps were affected more. Or that could have been my aiming, difficult to say. Anyway, very impressed with that, especially the first shot. Classic.